Hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from our space. Sometimes the answers aren't always clear. Sometimes we have to learn the hard way. Today on our space, we're offering some free lessons. We suggest you pay attention. Up first, when is enough enough? Lessons from a bad marriage. Wife cheated with coworker. Tried to get us to fight. 28 years old male was married to 38-year-old female. Married 6 years, together for 8. Bought home together, built life together. Make 10 times more money than she does. I paid for everything. Realized she was a narcissist in 2020. Insert years of emotional, verbal, mental abuse. Co-worker of hers was in love with her. December of 2021, they started having sex. Found out in March of 2022. March through September of 2022, worst months of my life. This 38-year-old dude started stalking me and her in the parking lots of Planet Fitness and even followed me to work. He blew her phone up with love and joy and my with hate and threats. She tried to get him to fight me. She was playing us both. I tried to make it work. She loves telling me how much this coworker was better than me. I developed anxiety and panic attacks. Thanks, Satan. She continued seeing him. I tried for months to keep the marriage going, but it takes 2 people. She enjoyed seeing me suffer. Lost like 50 pounds at this point from extreme stress and lack of eating. Enough was enough. Kicked her out of my house. Divorced September 22nd, 2022. I agreed to pay her rent for a year. Cheap price to pay to keep my house and sanity. Currently happily traveling through Europe with a new girlfriend who is sweet and nice. Ex-wife develops a drinking habit. Ex-wife got a DUI and had her car taken away, and the coworker dumped her because she left him for me and vice versa like 4 times. She tells me she hates men now. She is allergic to self-accountability. 5'0" ex-wife tries to fight a cop. What the F? I still feel the consequences of the trauma, but I'm taking things one day at a time. Much happier. Lesson: if he or she cheats, get the F out. Your happiness is not worth being sacrificed for disrespectful people. The community responds. Yellow Bastard 37 says, the new girlfriend sounds wonderful. I am very happy for you. I personally hope a rogue meteor from space swashes the ex flat, thus ending her dysfunction once and for all. 20,000 miles per hour ought to do the trick. 3459037 FGA says, nope, she is slowly suffering while alive. Let her live and watch the show. The OP replies, she is definitely depressed now. Abbreviations old 5833 chimes in, and these are the types of people who will try to corrupt other women into misery. It's a pattern. Way to go. Big Black Lemon adds this. I'm glad you divorced because I was getting ready for a story where the wife cheats and the husband sucks it up and also sucks up some really gross stuff off the wife's lady parts. Good for you. Lesson learned. You gave her way too many chances. The OP replies, thank you. Yeah, I sucked it up for a long time and it just made me feel worthless. I'll never let anyone treat me like that again. Yeah, I think you definitely learned the hard way. Why try to make the marriage work when she was clearly not in it anymore? For months. If someone's stalking you and your own partner is telling you that someone else is better than you, get the hell away. End it. Don't subject yourself to that kind of behavior. And then you pay her rent? Man, she had you wrapped around her little finger. You should have just cut her off entirely and totally cut your losses. You let her walk all over you. Don't make the same mistake twice. Dots? Up next, do we want to know what happens behind locked doors? Am I a narcissist or is my husband cheating on me? My husband of 6 years tells me I'm a narcissist and sometimes I believe him. However, he is always pointing out my faults, so I'm so confused. For example, last night, I went to go into my bathroom to get my tweezers and the door was locked. Now I know it's normal to want privacy and totally fine, but we never lock doors in our house. He actually gets mad at me if I lock the bathroom door, so I just stopped. He comes out of the bathroom, annoyed and with his Oculus headset. Weird, right? So I questioned him about it. I only asked, what are you doing in there with your Oculus on? He said playing my airplane game and walked away. I dropped it and went on because I'm currently sick and honestly don't have the strength to question it further. Fast forward to this morning, I'm getting my son ready for school, feeling like garbage from the flu, and I sighed. He immediately stated going off about how his life was better when he was homeless as a 16-year-old and he is 45 now, how I'm a covert narcissist, that my son and I are his biggest problems in life, complaining about his just random stuff. I was confused. I said, please stop. I'm feeling sick and my son can hear you yelling. He just kept going on and on. I eventually snapped back and said, you are never happy, always complain and keep things from me. He said, oh, So I'm cheating on you because I had my Oculus in the bathroom, right? Doesn't that seem weird? Or like an admission of guilt? He is always on edge, angry, annoyed, and blames me and my son for all of his problems. Am I a narcissist because I stand up to him? Or is he playing games with my head? I'm so confused and fed up. Asking questions, and the community will answer. Poncho2504 says, if he had his Oculus on in the bathroom, he was probably watching 3D porn. As for the rest, he sounds like an a-hole who hasn't achieved what he wants in life. So instead of taking responsibility, he's looking for someone else to blame so he can convince himself he's somehow the victim. And were it not for you guys, he'd be living the life of a rock star, rich and worshipped by all around him. BornCloud6381 says, you said you and your child are the worst things to have happened to him, and you wonder if you're the toxic one? Since he included your child in that statement, I'm gonna go with a big no. Just no. Can't Get Right 606 says, something sounds off. It's not just you. The fact that you didn't bring up cheating and he did sounds like a defensive admission to me. I'd ask why he would jump to that. Oh boy, it sounds like he's totally projecting on you. You're not crazy and you're not a narcissist. You don't need to be put down like that. I think you're totally right. He may very well be cheating, but there's not enough evidence to conclude that quite yet. I think the verbal abuse is more of an issue. However, the fact that he doesn't want to really address it and just throws it back at you is also a red flag. Sounds like you may need a break from him. Leave. Give him an ultimatum. Really make him think about things. If he's saying that you and your son are the biggest problem in his life, leave him and see if he comes back. Don't surround yourself with people like that. No one should ever hear something like that. Let him lock himself in the bathroom with his Oculus. You deserve better. What do you think? Next, tit for tat. I want them to be miserable too. In early 2020, I caught my husband talking to someone who I had already said made me uncomfortable. Their friendship started through mutual Jeep friends, and 2 months before I caught him talking to her, I told him he was too comfortable and happy to talk to her. So when I caught them talking, it ripped my heart out. She was also married, and she met my kids, had been to my house with her kid, and had hung out with us there. My husband was ready to leave me for her. We were all soldiers, her husband included, at the time too. So I was going to bring the affair to both their commands. My husband said if I told her husband would probably leave her and open the door for them to date without anyone in the way. When I spoke to her, she begged me not to tell her husband because their son is autistic and she had no intentions to leave her husband for mine, and she didn't want to ruin her son's life. I made the choice to forgive my husband and told her I wouldn't tell her husband if she stopped all contact with my husband and blocked him. She did. It's been 2.5 years, and when I see a Jeep that resembles hers, it brings all of that back. I want to tell her husband. I want them to go through what I went through. I know it's wrong and I gain nothing from it, but my misery wants company. The reaction from the community starts off with this. His wife 10. So your husband basically said he would choose her over you and practically dared you to tell the husband so they could be together? Does he even treat you well now? Did he show any remorse? Does he show you love? Or are you two just going through the motions? Honestly, I think that would have been enough for me to leave. The OP replies, he was remorseful and nothing like it has happened again. He shows me love and is caring. I think we had only been married for almost 3 years when all that happened, and I want to say me forgiving him was me being young and fighting for my marriage. From what I know, he didn't sleep with her, but I'm not saying you're wrong. I definitely deserve better, and I still do. Things have been good once we got through that. I just haven't moved on all the way. His wife 10 responds again. It's understandable that you haven't moved on. It really doesn't sound like you two dealt with it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like you both just ignored it happen. I think it takes a lot of work to move on from cheating. The cheater has a lot of work to put in to earn back the trust, respect, and love of their significant other. The person being cheated on has to deal with all the feelings of sadness, anger, and betrayal. I think something like that takes a long time to come back from. A professor I had once said he wasn't very good to his wife for many years. When he finally decided to be a better partner to her, he asked her, knowing what she knew then, if she'd agree to marry him again. She said no. With what she knew then, she wouldn't have said yes to marry him. He said it took many, many years of him doing the work to show her he was worth it. After something like 15 years, he asked her again, and she said yes that time. So they had a very nice bowel renewal. I think both partners need to be committed to making it work, and it's about actions and not just words. Bold Nale says, sorry to hear this, and husband is trying to scare you into silence. Maybe the anger lingers because you can't confront your husband properly. Are you still together? Has he changed anything in his behavior to calm your nerves? Otherwise, you will live in constant doubt in that marriage, and your focus is now on Jeeps and this woman instead of seeing red flags from husband who can do the same with others. Stay strong. This is between you and husband and how your marriage is going to work out after this. Already sounds like you're past most betrayal. You got this. The OP replies, he's changed significantly. I hate how insecure I feel since it all happened, but he doesn't hide anything. He doesn't use social media much anymore. When it happened, and before I knew it was her, I told myself, if she's single and I don't know her, it's not her fault. But the hurt also comes from her having been someone I knew and invited into my home. I know the only person who really should have respected me in the situation is my husband. And we've since removed ourselves from the community we're a part of. But he did scare me into silence, and most times, I don't think about any of this, just lately. This past week, it's been on my mind a lot. I'm in therapy. I have been for almost a year, but I still have hatred for her and the damage she helped cause my marriage. Meanwhile, hers looks fine, outside looking in. Oh, OP, I really hope for your sake that he doesn't do anything like that again. As was mentioned in the comments, I think there is still some unfinished business. Yeah, he may be kind and caring, but that hasn't stopped anyone from caving into temptation. I mean, you did say that if her husband left her, that would be an open invitation for both of them to get together. On top of that, it's unbelievable that she thought she could get away with all of this. And as soon as there were threats of her life being turned upside down, she cuts it off. That's not fair to you. She should have suffered the same. Am I wrong? Lastly, this OP gets the last laugh. One of the times I was cheated on. I've been reading stories on here, and now I want to share one of mine. I've been cheated on a bunch of times. This happened when I was 17. It was my second girlfriend and the first girl I had ever been with intimately. We had a long-distance thing, and we hung out every other week. I lived in town B, and she lived in town A. We dated for a few months. It came to the time of year that prom was happening, and I invited her to prom at my school in town B. She accepted, and we went, all dressed up and proper. Prom kind of sucked. We didn't have a lot of fun, and she didn't know anyone, so I tried to salvage. I knew that a local venue was having a show down the road. A lot of the alternative crowd high schoolers and young college students would go and watch local bands play. It was usually a good turnout. I took her to it, and we had fun. We ran into a guy who was a cool older guy. He spoke at open mic night and thought highly of himself, etc. That kind of guy. But he asked us if we wanted to smoke weed, and she said yes. We went to his apartment, which just happened to be nearby, and we chilled. We sat and chatted for a while, and then he just looked at her and said, "Want a screw?" And she said, "Sure." I was like, "What the F?" I looked at her in disbelief and said, "What? No, let's go." But she made up her mind. I just up and left. She ended up dating that guy for a few weeks and hanging around my town. She then cheated on him with his friend, and that went to crap as well. I got the last laugh, though. She was a part of our friend group, and they all shunned her for what she did to me. I graduated soon after this all went down and went to town A and lived in a house we rented with all my friends. She came back from town B with a sob story about how she was mistreated by those guys, and later I learned about how they all hated her now and how she tried to sleep with everyone in their group. We told her to go F herself, and we didn't care. She eventually asked me to date her again, and I told her to F off. So that's the story of the only time I ever went to prom. The community wanted to react. Extreme Performer 30 says, "I have no sympathy for women like this." Juan STFU says, "Nice story, man. I'm very sorry that happened to you. Getting cheated on is literally one of the worst things that could happen to anyone. But it really did end good for you. The fair partner gets cheated on by your ex. Every friend knows how much of a THOT she truly is, and when she tries to crawl back to you asking for another chance, you tell her where she needs to go. Very proud of you for not taking your back, bro. Hope you're doing well." The OP replies, "Yeah, I'm doing great now. This whole thing happened many, many years ago." Smith Table 15 chimes in, "Moral, prom sucks. Long-distance relationships lead to cheating. I find it hard to believe she wasn't cheating before that incident, though it's surprising how upfront she was about it when you were there." Jesus, that's quite bold of them both. I'm not surprised that she was hated on and cheated on as time went on, and I'm not surprised that her actions were totally shamed. I'm not sure where she thought she would end up. Do you have a similar story? Let us know below. Thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. We'd hate for you to miss out. If you want to listen to more stories from me, check out our lounge where I feature a larger variety of non-cheating related stories. See you there.